your life. Whether you're ready or not, sometimes it's rough. And it takes all that you've got, but he's been here, just waiting for you to knock. So take his hand and plant your feet on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to build my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to build my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to build my life on the rock.
Hi, welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guests are Father Keith O'Hare and Andrew Lane. Father O'Hare is the pastor at the Bonica Mission in Dominican Republic, and Andrew's a college student who's done mission trips down there. They're both from the Arlington Diocese here in America, so they have a great outreach to the poor, the people of Dominican Republic. They're going to share their stories and their faith with us tonight. It's a great work.
Yeah.
So, good to see you, Doug.
You too, Father.
What's been up in the Battle Ready world?
Well, this week I will be in Wisconsin. I'll be working with Father Rick Heilman, who is a great priest doing some great work up there in Pine Bluff area, Wisconsin. He started something called the Holy League, and it's just a fantastic little organization he's putting together. More will be coming out at the end of November, November 23rd. You got to go to our website, battlereadystrong.com, check out the details on it, or just look up Holy League, and you can find out more about what Father Heilman is doing. But I'll be up there this whole week talking about, they're Battle Ready rallies essentially, but they're all men-oriented, this particular tour. I'll be back in Wisconsin later in March in the Green Bay Diocese. But,
Do women come to the tour?
Oh, all the Battle Ready rallies are open to, I say, men, women, children, ages 7 and up, because as soon as your soul's at the age of reason, you're on the line, you're on the firing line. So we got to get them out there and teach them to be spiritually battle ready.
Now, you don't scare those kids.
No, it's all good stuff. Yeah, I only scare the older ones in high schools.
And what do you have there?
This is a fantastic piece of the puzzle of the spiritual battle, and it goes along in what we're going to talk about, Call to Holiness in the opening segment here. This is the brand new rosary that has been put together by Tom Sullivan. The right tilt, there we go. Yes. And it comes in a really nice box. He just received these not too long ago. You can get them at his website. Calltoknighthood.com. Great little pamphlet here, 6-panel pamphlet on the individual medals on this thing. But this is a fantastic rosary. Got to show you this. It's the Warrior Rosary, and he's been working on this for several years. Put together by a company in Italy, the same company that makes a lot of the materials for the Vatican. This is a fantastic rosary. Great corpus there on a sword. This is really a new idea, but it's to remind us that we are all spiritual warriors in the battle. In particular, us men. You've got the image here of his crest that he put together. You've got St. Joseph, Terror of Demons, one of these medals, and then 5 particular saints who are involved in the serious spiritual fight. Great warrior men who have given their lives for the faith that we profess here today. So the Warrior Rosary, calltoknighthood.com is the website you can check this out at, or you can get it through battlereadystrong.com. We'll direct you right over to Tom's site. Fantastic piece of equipment in the spiritual battle, and very necessary in the call to holiness for us to be warriors for God, spiritual soldiers for Christ.
And I wanted to talk about holiness on this show because we're in November now. We started with All Saints Day, that's a feast day. And it's a reminder, we ask the saints to pray for us, and it's a reminder too of our call, to our personal call, individual call, and as a church to holiness. And it was one of the major things of Vatican II in its document on the church. You know, Mother Angelica never tired of repeating that message. The universal call to holiness in this document, Lumen Gentium, speaks of this. And it says, Vatican II says, because the church is the body of Christ, and of course Jesus, the Son of God, and the Spirit is holiness itself, and because we're joined to Him in His mystical body, we are called to holiness. We are called to share in this divine life of God. So He united her, the church, to Himself as His own body and brought it to perfection by the gift of the Holy Spirit for God's glory. Therefore, we are called to holiness. And He says that in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. Remember, He says, be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect. And this section of the document goes on to speak of particular vocations and walks of life and how that perfection of charity, because that's what we're talking about, looks like, and how it's unique and special to our call and our duties, our state in life. But it says that all the faithful of Christ, of whatever rank or status, are called to the fullness of the Christian life and the perfection of charity. By this, holiness as such, a more human manner of living is promoted in this earthly society, right? It's going to bless the whole world. In order that the faithful may reach this perfection, they must use their strength accordingly as they have received it as a gift from Christ. They must follow in his footsteps and conform themselves to his image, seeking the will of the Father in all things. They must devote themselves with all their being to the glory of God and the service of neighbor. And I like that little summary point, right? That we're conformed, we've got to use everything we have. He wants all of us, right? Intellect, will, our heart, our body, everything, our strength is to be totally given over to him. You're not just some purely private, personal little decision or relationship in our heart. The whole universe is destined for him, right? To find a fullness in him. And he wants certainly all of us and all of our lives. The part that really struck me in reading this section again, he said that single people make a great contribution toward holiness and apostolic endeavor in the church. We see that all the time on this show. We have a lot of young people that are single. You're called to the fullness of holiness as well. You have a great time and energy for apostolic endeavors. And he also mentions that all who are weighed down with poverty, infirmity, and sickness, as well as those who must bear various hardships or who suffer persecution for justice' sake, they all know they are united with the suffering Christ in a special way for the salvation of the world. You know, I get letters from people like that. He said, Father, please speak to us. You know, maybe you're laid off from work. Maybe you have a disability, you can't work or whatever. And it can be pretty hopeless. You know, you might be shut in, living by yourself. And they're saying you're united to Christ in his suffering in a special way. And that's redemptive and fruitful for the whole world. But this is the paragraph, my favorite paragraph that struck me. He said, finally, all Christ's faithful, whatever be the conditions, duties, and circumstances of their lives, and indeed, through all these, will daily increase in holiness if they receive all things with faith from the hand of their Heavenly Father, and if they cooperate with the divine will. In this temporal service, they will manifest to all men the love with which God loved the world. And I thought of Mother Angelica. You know, she so often exhorted us to faith, you know, in our everyday life and the mundane circumstances. So if we can see with the eyes of faith how God is present in our life, our circumstances are permitted by him or directly ordained by him, that it's a path to holiness. He's going to use us in a powerful way to be part of that plan of redemption, salvation for the whole world. And that takes faith, because all I can see is maybe my difficulties.
Yeah, and there has to be some sort of effort on our part, an act of the will. You think about, you know, when they ask our Lord, what is the greatest commandment? And he says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength, and love your neighbors yourself. And the idea behind that you know, everything that stems from the heart of us. It all starts with loving God with all your heart first, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. Unite everything. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do for the glory of God. So it's about directing everything. Like you said, the whole universe is made for him, and every single thing that we do, every single thing we go through, even our sufferings, especially our sufferings, like you said, are united in a unique way. Archbishop Fulton Sheen said that the greatest problem in our world is not all the suffering. The greatest problem in our world is all the wasted suffering. We unite that to Christ's cross. Woohoo! Some serious damage to the enemy.
And the saints remind us, right? Because there's some saint in heaven, right, that had similar situations that we live in today, or in some difficulty, and by God's grace they overcame it. They became holy. So it places a call upon us. They remind us of this call.
Yep.
So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Father Keith O'Hare and Andrew Lane. Don't go away. Back in a moment.
The Diocese of Arlington generously provides 2 priests here in the mission of Bonica. There's actually 2 towns, 2 main towns, Bonica and Pedro Santana. And that's serving a total of over 10,000 people. I should say 10,000 poor people. The people of Bonica and the different communities of the parish live certainly on the edge of extreme poverty. Their basic needs are a daily struggle for basic nutrition, to eat, to survive, really.
And welcome back to Life on the Rock. I'm Doug Barry along with Father Mark. We are the Rock House compadres. This is the Rock House, and we have our guest here, Father Keith O'Hare.
You can make jokes.
I'm not going to make jokes about your no hair. And Andrew, good to have you on here, Andrew, and Father. And the video we just saw is your home. It's your current home right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Bonica in Dominican Republic.
That's right.
All right, and you've been down there for how long, Father?
6 years.
6 years. Now, this is not, as some U.S. Parishes have a mission diocese, a mission parish somewhere in third world type country where a priest would go and come back and so forth. But you've been stationed down there for 6 years
Yeah,
now.
this is a complete adoption of 2 parishes right in the border of Haiti there. So Bishop Laverty, our current bishop, is very generous in loaning 2 priests and providing all the funding to run those 2 parishes, and different groups in the diocese contribute as well. So it's a real complete embrace of 2 poor parishes in the Dominican Republic by the whole Diocese of Arlington. In fact, if you go to the website for the Diocese of Arlington, you see the list of the parishes. The 2 parishes, Bonica, St. Francis and St. Joseph, are listed there just as if there are any other parishes of the diocese, and they're treated as if they are, really just embraced completely.
Okay. What's it like? What's it like to be down there? I mean, first of all, was there much culture shock for you to go from the States down there?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work with Spanish-speaking parishioners in the Diocese of Arlington, so there was some carryover there, but there's always going to be, cultural differences, and to kind of paint a picture of what's really different going from a suburban Northern Virginia parish to on the border of Haiti, Dominican Republic kind of parish. The people there are transportationally challenged. What I mean is that, of the 10,000 people there in the mission, maybe a couple hundred, maybe 200 or so have a vehicle with 4 wheels, like a beat-up pickup truck. That's the wealthy, that's the upper class. So upper middle class, be those that have a motorcycle, maybe about 500 or so have a motorcycle, gives them some mobility. Then middle class, we're talking about people who have a horse or a mule, they can get around a bit. And then most of the people have none of that, just their 2 feet to get around. So unlike a normal American parish where people can travel to a central location for the sacraments, for catechesis, for Sunday Mass, in Bonica, that's not possible. So if the people can't come to Mass, then Mass comes to the people where they are.
So you're traveling a lot to different locations.
A lot of travel, yeah.
You say transportationally challenged. I can imagine people's idea of what that means here in the States. Transportationally challenged is driving behind somebody who's clearly transportationally challenged. Would you stop driving that way? Anyway, all right, side note.
No, the only traffic jams we have are with goats and cows.
Okay, well, we don't have a lot of that here in the States, on the road at least. How long have you been a priest, Father?
I was ordained in 2002.
Okay, and from Arlington then, family?
Grew up in Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay, all right. And how's the priesthood going so far?
Well, as Father Mark could say, there's really not words. It's, it's a gift beyond, what you could describe, really.
Yeah, and I'd love to ask those questions because I know a lot of people, and some would say, well, how do you ask a priest that? How's your priesthood going so far? Well, you're a man, and an amazing transformation has taken place in your life. You're now the person of Christ. You're a spiritual officer on the battlefield. You deal with things and see things and are allowed by the grace of God to do things that we lay people just have no clue of. Forgiving sins, consecrating, bread and wine into the body and blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. It's pretty incredible. And, I'm in awe at the fact that God has given us the priesthood, and just simple, humble men like yourself and Father Mark who just carry out that task is an incredible thing to consider in our world today. So I'd like to ask that question before we get more into the mission work. What is your favorite thing about being a priest? This wasn't on the list, by the way. I had to throw this in.
Well, I can say that in, it's a calling to be a priest, and then it's another step more to be called to be a priest missionary. That itself is another undeserved, blessing. And a priest friend of mine was down visiting in Bonica, and after observing things for a couple of days, he said, man, you know what? This is full-bodied priesthood down here, This is not just teaching and sanctifying and the people come to Mass and come to the parish and then they go home. You are every step of the way with them, dealing with their material and their spiritual needs, their educational needs, housing, clean water, all of life is just completely embraced, and you get to be Christ in the fullest sense, and also I would say like kind of an instrument of the providence of God the Father, They call you Father, and there it's really identifiable with God the Father in a more profound way, I feel like, because they're looking to the church not just for spiritual, but also for temporal needs. And so that is, it's a joy to be fully invested in their lives as a priest.
I've heard it said by some that some priests might say, these hands are made for the chalice, not the callous. But in your case, it's clearly both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How did you discern that call to be a mission priest?
Well, I had discerned earlier to serve in the diocese in Spanish-speaking ministry, and you're certainly serving people a lot of times who are recent immigrants who have more of those comprehensive needs, beyond just some of the standard things you expect in a parish priest. And then when there was the announcement that they were going to transfer another priest down there and replace the priest who was there for 5 years before me, it was simple. I just called my spiritual director and asked him, should I go? Because he knows me better than I know myself, right? So he said, yeah, you should go. That was it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he knows who's doing. He knows.
So you didn't hear any angels singing in heaven? No moment? It was just a matter of asking.
No, but there is a peace when you're there too.
Sure.
There's a peace when you say yes, and then the peace comes. You can be sure that was the right yes.
And then one of the programs that you've got that's a big deal is you bring a lot of youth down, high school youth down on a regular basis down there. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to bring one of the veterans of that program and let him speak to the millions and millions of people watching and listening right now.
That's right.
But Father, what's that program like to get the youth down there and get them activated in this?
Well, like I mentioned, this is not just priests from a diocese visiting a mission with a group and going back home to their diocese. This is 2 priests, myself and Father Jason Weber, serving there full-time, living there in Bonica. And so what that facilitates is youth groups from the Diocese of Arlington, where we come from, to visit. And it's less of a strange place because your own priests are there to welcome you and to guide you through that experience. And so they're going to get a taste of that full-bodied Christianity as well as they do a service project and assist with spiritual activities and things like that. So high school groups, college groups, adult groups as well. So at least 10 groups a year come down, whether it's during spring break or during the summer or other times during the year. And generally come down for 7 or 8 days at a time. And you can imagine what a grace that is, Yeah. I would like to say that grace flows in both directions, Grace flows through the youth to the people of Bonica, and grace flows through the people of Bonica to the youth, So there's a multiplication of grace through that exchange.
Yeah, that's what I found. I mean, and not from me traveling to places like that so much, but even in traveling around the States or other countries and doing evangelization work, is every time I go in somewhere, I'm much more inclined now to just be much more open than ever before to what God's going to give me while I'm there. How can I benefit from these experiences of evangelization or working with other people on different levels? Because sometimes I know mission work, you think you're going to go out there and you're going to go help them, when oftentimes, and Andy, I want you to speak to this, what it's like, because you go in maybe with the attitude, I'm going to go in and really do some serious work and really help these people, and you walk out thinking, whoa, I really got a dose of something out of that. What was that like for you? Let's talk about the first time you went down there.
Okay, so the first time I went down there, it was kind of just happened all by chance. I think one of the priests at the parish that was going down couldn't make it. And so the youth minister just offered me a spot, just, hey, do you want to come down and do this? And I just said, yeah, sure. So the first day, it's just a lot of traveling, getting on a plane, getting on a bus, driving just straight into the middle of the Dominican Republic. And yeah, you get there and it's just completely different. Everything that you knew before back in the States, is completely changed. And so the entire week there are kind of no real certainties. You know, you have to get used to the changes, and you can never really depend on like set things, you know, like air conditioning or like hot water or even plumbing, you know. So it's very, very different down there. And
So things like 4G cell phone service, just not quite
yeah, that
as
kind of
reliable.
just goes right out the window. That's just done.
I can't get my iPhone to work. What's going on here?
You get on the plane, airplane mode, and it's like that for 7 days. So
Now, is that freeing to some degree, though, once you get there and you realize, okay, I've got to let go of this. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to have my cell service. I'm not going to have this ease and this comfort that I'm used to. Does that reach a point where it's just, it's freedom?
absolutely. I think maybe for some people at first it's kind of you have to wean off of that kind of technology and then kind of look up and around you. And then once you get to that point, it's just amazing what you've like experienced and what you feel, especially down in the Dominican Republic. It's just like giving all of yourself without any distractions. It's wonderful. So
How soon, once you got there on the first trip, did you realize you were going to benefit from this a lot more maybe than what you were going to give?
probably as soon as I met natives, you know, because the culture down there is really different. So when you get down, you're tired, you're kind of worn out, you're shown to your room. It's not the nicest accommodations. You don't really know what to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So the next morning, as soon as you get to your work site and you meet the family that you're working with and you kind of connect with them, that's the moment of realization where, okay, I might be giving them something like physical, but they're going to give me way more spiritually. So,
Yeah. I wonder if it's the same for people there who come here. Would you say so, Father, or is it not? Do they come to the States and think, wow, I really benefited a lot spiritually here? Or they come here and think, wow, I was tainted with a lot of your materialism and your lust for excess. You know, what do you
This
think?
is another world for them. We had a group come up here for about a week, a couple years ago, for an anniversary visit,
Right.
and it was kind of overwhelming to see the way life is here in terms of, you know, big houses and lawns and picket fences. And
Yeah,
all
I'll
that.
never forget a missionary who came to Lincoln, Nebraska years ago and went into someone's house in a relatively poor part of town of Lincoln, you know, and it was the parish that my wife and I were married in and lived in, and I remember the missionary walking in the house and seeing carpet on the floor and saying, "You are rich." And the woman said, "My house is creaky and drafty," and he says, "But you have carpet on the floor." And that alone said an awful lot about where we're at in our world and where others are at in their world in various places. So we're going to run to a break and come back and find out more about Andrew's next trip, and now that he's a veteran, what advice you would have for others, but especially the transformation and what you came back to the States with, and then Father, more about what's going on down there in Dominican Republic and other places of the world where there are people who are really understanding what poverty is, maybe more so than some of us think about. So don't go away. We're back after this break. Welcome back to Life on the Rock. I'm Doug Barry along with Father Mark Mary. We're the Rock House Compadres, and you are watching or listening, depending upon if you've got the radio on right now, to one of the best places you could be right now. That's the Rock House here in EWTN. We have with us Father O'Hare, and I'm not going to make jokes about the hair, Father, and Andrew, and you are the pastor. Are you the pastor or
Correct,
associate?
yes.
You're the pastor of 2 parishes down there, is that correct?
Well, we're a two-man team, yeah. So
Okay.
myself and Father Jason Weber.
Okay, so
Serving 2 parishes, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, in Bonica, Dominican Republic.
Right.
What's your population down there? I mean, how many families, how many people are you working with? Are you serving down there?
There are 5,000 people, roughly 5,000 people in each of the 2 parishes, and they're dispersed in about 60 different communities at about a 30-40 mile radius. It takes 7 hours to drive from one end of the 2 parishes to the other end of the 2 parishes. So it's a lot of distance. I mean, it's not because it's so many miles, it's because of the terrain. We're talking about mountainous terrain where there's not really well-developed roads or anything like that. So you got to have a strong four-wheel drive truck with some monster tires to get to where all the people are.
Right, right. So what kind of truck do you got at the front?
It's a Toyota Hilux, which is similar to the, what's it called? Tacoma?
Tacoma?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's got a beefed up suspension and, some other modifications. You kind of feel pretty manly when you're driving it.
Got a shotgun hanging in the window and a Confederate flag in there or something?
Let's just say people respect you.
Yeah, because of the truck. Yeah,
Is that a problem, like traveling those distance with bandits and stuff? Or?
No, you know what? The church and Americans are both highly, highly esteemed, because in this country, Dominican Republic, they have received so much support and assistance from the church and from the United States. So you are untouchable. They wouldn't think of doing harm to Americans or people of the church. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, actually.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And then caring for the vehicle, I'm thinking, does it break down? What do you do when it breaks down? Are you a mechanic as well? Is fuel easy to get? Is maintenance on a vehicle easy down there?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a sense. So this Toyota Hilux that we have has a snorkel so that the air can exit upwards in case you're crossing a river and
Gotcha.
it gets a little higher than you expected, which does happen.
It's like a military Humvee with the exhaust going up.
There you go. Yeah. Then the other thing it has is a supersized tank. So that's like 38 gallon tank, diesel, which gets you lots of mileage, of course.
Yeah.
So you take precautions and you're in good shape.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. Now, did you ride around with him in his truck when you were down there, Andy?
Yeah, we'd have to hop in the back, just hold on. It's bumpy, so some kids kind of. No one ever.
We don't want to say that. Well, we lost a few, but no, just kidding about that.
No.
My goodness, yeah. Okay, now we're going to another video coming up in a bit here. Before we get to that, Andrew, during the break there, we mentioned this point. Did you look forward to going back after your first trip and then subsequent following trips? Was there something in your heart that made you look forward to going back each time?
Yes, definitely. I think down there it's a very, very intimate experience spiritually and just with the people down there culturally. So every time I came back home, I'd always tell my family, they can vouch, I miss Bonica, I kind of want to go back. So yeah, just something about Bonica that just kind of draws you in and makes you want to go back. So.
Is it the sort of thing, Father, you think that the missionaries, because you've dealt with, I'm sure, dozens and dozens who've come through there now, do you think that the transformation that takes place in the missionary, and I think this is, really transformation that can take place in a missionary heart anywhere, and really we're missionary by baptism, just in case anybody out there is wondering. We're missionary by baptism, not necessarily by choice. We have to remember that. It's just how that manifests itself in one way, shape, or form. But we're all called to evangelize and be missionaries in some way, shape, or form. But do you see the transformation taking place in their hearts? How would you describe that as you counsel them, spiritual direction, and so forth for them?
Yeah, I would say that it is this 7-week mission experience gives them an intense experience of detachment. So, when you're without the comforts of...
Did you say 7 weeks?
7 days,
7 days, okay.
So 7-day experience of intense detachment. And so when you're freed from, teenagers typically are somewhat self-absorbed. It's just kind of typical of their stage in life, right? That's normal. But when they're thrown into the situation where all they got is God, people, and serving poor people in front of them, they are kind of thrust into this kind of a spiritual liberation, I remember one time, a group was down there, and their project, like many groups, was helping families to dig outhouses. So you have to dig like a 10, 12-foot hole, then throw a concrete slab over that and build a structure, and that's hard work. It's kind of like boxing. You can only dig in that hard soil for about 4 or 5 minutes in the hot sun before you got to take a break and pass the shovel to someone else. So this group was doing that, and then sat down to lunch with them. And I remember sitting down this one time, the girl next to me, her name was Vanessa. And I said, Vanessa, how you doing? And she looked at me just with real sincerity and said, Father, I have never been happier. Here she had been doing back-breaking work in the hot sun for strangers, but she had experienced what it's like to lay down your life completely for another, And there is a joy in that, right? In the total gift of self, there is a spiritual joy, which is not just a sort of a pleasurable happiness that comes from other things that we're accustomed to.
See, Father, that brings up a point. I think when our Lord says, if you want to be my disciple, 3 things are necessary. You have to deny yourself, you have to take up your cross, you have to follow me. And for years I would contemplate, what that meant, especially the part about follow me, because not everybody is called to martyrdom, to die like Jesus on the cross. But really the cross is more about making a gift of yourself for others, just giving everything for others, giving of yourself for the church, for God, for others, for souls in general. And that sounds like something like that. Andrew, would you describe it as that, where you have to deny yourself, you have to detach and deny yourself all the comforts and cell phone service and whatever goes with it, and you have to take up the cross, whatever's presented to you. And we're going to see the video in a moment here of the building of the bathrooms, it sounds like. And they have to make a gift of yourself by following Christ to Calvary. Do you see it that way? Is that pretty accurate?
I think so. I think down in Bonica it's more of a real experience than up here in the States, kind of, because you're thrown right into this, the crosses of discomfort and everything, and just totally giving of yourself, just like you're in that hole, you're sweating, you're doing like everything you can just to help these people, and then in that moment you just feel like immense joy.
All right, we have to show the audience this video of that immense joy of being in that hole, building a toilet for a community. Check this out.
So right now we're in the community that's called Mamoncito. We're visiting this one neighborhood within Mamoncito. The folks here tell me that about 25, 30 people live in these about 4 houses here, 4 or 5 houses. And what's of interest to us is that they're lacking something very basic, something we take for granted, which is a bathroom, Here, it's an outhouse. It certainly wouldn't be inside the house. We're very fortunate to have American youth groups come down for service projects, somewhere between 7 and 10 days to serve the local communities. Beautiful thing is, though, they're not going to make these bathrooms for them. They're going to make these bathrooms with them. So we look for young men especially that can lend a hand so they can take pride in improving the situation of their community.
So building one of these toilets takes, I think, 4 or 5 guys about a week to do from the start to finish. A group that comes down to make, they dig a hole that's big enough and a structure that's strong enough that the toilet will last on average about 20 years or so. I'll tell you what, the communities that that particular group has served is never going to forget them for, well, at least 20 years before they forget them.
It reminds me of some of the rest stops on the interstate I've seen, just around the states. No, seriously, I mean, that's an incredible thing. And it's humbling, too, to know that we have homes in America and other places in industrialized, in more advanced civilizations and worlds and countries that have 3, 4 bathrooms in each home, with 2 or 3 sinks, running water, all kinds of amenities that we really take that stuff for granted. Andrew, so you're building a toilet. First time you heard this is what you were going to be doing, what was your thought?
I think I just went along with it the first time. I think I was kind of a little excited in my first time. Yeah, I'm going to do some really hard work. It's going to be great. But you get there and oh yeah, we have to dig a 7-foot hole. Here's a pickaxe. And after the first couple blisters come up, you kind of start to think to yourself, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But you get to the bottom of the hole and then you cement the top and build the structure, and then when it's done you're like, wow. So it's a very awesome experience to be able to do that. Very humbling, as you said. Yeah,
and as you mentioned in the video there, Father, just to see the improvement and help the people there even take part in it to improve their situation is pretty incredible. And these video clips are from what, Father?
There was a volunteer, professional, but pro bono team, professional video team that made a documentary called Along the Border. And it's on our website, bonicamission.com. And very generous and faith-filled people who made that documentary.
Awesome.
How would you, Father, describe the faith of the people? What's it like?
We know that the faith of the simple is something to be envied. To have a simple heart is to have a holy heart. And when I think about the faith of the people, there's one gentleman I think about in particular. His name is Leonardo. He's at one of those communities I get to every Sunday. Some of them you only get once a month or once every couple months or even once a year because of the distance. But In this case, he's in a place where I get every Sunday. So one Sunday I get there, and before Mass, he says, hey, Father, I need to talk about something after Mass today. I said, sure, no problem. And I was pretty sure I knew what Leonardo wanted to talk about. It's what the people always want to talk about. You know, it's the help that they need. They might need help buying medicine, or they might need transportation to get to a local hospital, or they might need help repairing their home, you know, because all their needs are looking to church for help. So after Mass, I said, you know, hey, Leonardo, what's up? He said, Father, well, you know, I come to Mass here every Sunday, and you know, I live alone. I don't have a family. And then kind of sheepishly he said, and Father, I've never made my first communion. And I'd really like to make my first communion. I said, well, sure, you know, we can do that, because I had a young adult catechist to prepare him, and then a couple months later, he's ready after his first confession and received his first Holy Communion at Mass. We took a nice picture. I have an iPhone. With my iPhone, smiled big, and then he turned to me after the photo. He said, hey, Father, I need to talk about something. You know, I was like, oh, here we go. He softened me up with that first communion. Now he's going to ask for that stuff that he needs. I'm like, sure, no problem. So, you know, what's up? He said, well, Father, you know, I'm very grateful to have received my first communion today. And to show you my gratitude, I brought you these vegetables from the farm where I work. You know, what a humble, sincere faith. This man, who certainly goes hungry on a regular basis, as most of the people do, had brought food to the priest in gratitude for the food of eternal life that he had received. So I'm not saying everyone down there's a saint, but there is a gift of simplicity which disposes you to love God above all things. You know?
And the typical day for your parishioners, how would you describe that?
Typical day for the people, I'll talk like, for example, about kids down there. So the school system down there, for the most part, is 4 hours of class. So you might have first grade through fourth grade go to class in the morning from 8 till noon. Then they go home, and then the 5th through 8th graders go back to the same classrooms, because it's a lot of one-room schools and limited resources for education. They're going to go to school, and I'll tell you what makes them go to school, because they're going to get a snack. Because they're probably not having breakfast. A lot of them not, especially out in the far out campos. They're not going to have, maybe they have a little bit of yuca in the morning if there's something around, whatever. So what makes them want to go to school, walk in some cases 30, 45 minutes to get to school, is that snack they're going to get. And then when they get home in the afternoon, you know, that's where mom or grandma has prepared rice and beans. That's a typical daily meal. And that's going to be their big meal of the day. Rice and beans. And if they're fortunate, there's chicken or some other kind of meat in there as well. Sometimes the parents don't send their kids to school because they're working on the farm altogether. You know, so there is a struggle there because of their poverty. They're just trying to make it through each day, and sometimes they put education on the back burner because they're trying to just you know, work on their farm.
Right. So most of the people are farmers. That's
the predominant lifestyle. Sure. Yep.
And Andrew, what's a typical day for a missionary down there?
Well, you wake up around 7, and then I think breakfast is at 8, and then we try to get to the work site around 9, and we work from 9 to 1, which doesn't seem very long, but digging an outhouse, it's pretty tiresome. So then at 1 o'clock, I think we would either have lunch. It would vary. We'd either have it on the work site or go back to the dorm and just eat there. And then I think there'd be some recreation time, then we go to Mass, and then come back, dinner, and then I think just rest up for the next day, because they work you hard down there. So.
Same thing every day pretty much then?
Yeah. Typically there are different projects going on, so there'll be about like 3 different outhouses, and then maybe like 4 people in each group. And so you get assigned a group on the first day, and then throughout that week you just build the outhouse and get to know who you're working with and the family that you're helping. So.
All right. Father, other projects other than just building outhouses?
The typical ones right now are outhouses, and the other is cement floors. You know, because a lot of the people don't have cement floors. And a cement floor is a benefit not only for hygiene and cleanliness, but also it physically makes your home cooler. You know, besides the dignity it gives. You know, you can actually clean your home, and it's not going to get dirty and muddy during the rainy season.
It's amazing the things we just, you know, through experiences like this, realize how some of these very simple things that we take for granted, you know, mean so much, not just to the day-to-day activity, but the dignity even that you feel in your heart. And it elevates the dignity of the person. How big are the teams normally that you bring down?
Somewhere between 12 and 25. That's a typical size.
Do you ever get any who break under the pressure and the stress? I can't take it anymore. Andrew, did that ever happen to you? Did you ever break under the stress?
I never did, thankfully.
Yeah, okay.
But I know people that did, and it's not pretty.
Oh, they do?
So,
It does happen once in a while, huh?
oh yeah.
Is that the way, because of the way Father drives on the roads with
Yeah,
the truck?
exactly.
Is that?
Well, you know, the Caribbean culture is a very easygoing, culture. I think that does have, that's kind of contagious. So the kids kind of
Laid back a little bit.
They learn to
Laid
just
back,
kind of
yeah.
get laid back a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, how many do repeat and come back again and again? Is it a decent percentage, or what do you see?
Oh, many do. Yeah, I mean, we're already booked up for this whole, coming summer in 2015, and we're already having groups sign up for 2016. And I think, it's not just about a charitable work, because there's a cultural component that gets a really, especially more and more students speak some Spanish, so they're able to really have some communication. And then there's also the spiritual dimension. They're going to have, not every night, but some of the nights we'll take for reflection. You have to reflect on what was, how did you experience Christ in this day? How did you experience Christ through giving and receiving, the interchange with the local folks. So I think that's what draws people back, is it's kind of a comprehensive experience that the church makes possible for people.
Sure. Yeah. Excellent situation too. All right, we're going to go back and get into the break in here and come back afterwards, one more segment with more on Bonica House in Dominican Republic. Father O'Hare and Andrew, back after this. We are back for the fourth and final segment of Life on the Rock. I'm Doug Barry, along with Father Mark. We are the Rock House compadres, and we have with us Father O'Hare and Andrew. Andrew, we haven't even mentioned your last name, have we? Have we mentioned your last name?
I don't think so.
What is your last name, Andrew?
Lane.
Andrew Lane. I think we said at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew Lane. We've been calling you Andrew since then. Andrew, you have now spent 4 trips down there, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so 4 trips, and you can't go any longer, is that right? You're done? Unless you become a priest and
Technically. I'm sure I'll sneak my way down there.
you think you're just
somehow.
going to sneak your way down there?
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
go over
I have
the border.
connections down there.
You have connections. He's sitting right next to you. And you have access to a vehicle when you get there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Climb in. Here we go. Do you still long to go back down there, though? Is there something in your heart still wants to go down and visit?
Oh, yeah. I try to make an effort to go at least once a year, hopefully.
You're a freshman in college now.
Yes, that's correct.
What are you studying?
I'm undeclared, but I'm at the University of Dallas.
Undeclared. Is that kind of like a educational agnostic? You're not sure what you're declaring? Is that-
Yeah, I mean, education exists, you're just not.
Okay. So University of Dallas. All right. But what are you thinking? Are you thinking priesthood? Are you thinking, brother? Are you thinking religious marriage? Are you thinking?
Nothing specific.
Not to put you on the
yet.
spot with millions
I'm very
of people.
open to whatever God calls me to.
Okay.
But I'm glad I'm at Dallas. I'd like to find where I'm supposed to be there. So.
Okay. All right. What do you think for him, Father? What do you think you have to do?
Well,
Size
Just
me up.
between the 4 of us here
And the millions of.
and the millions of people watching and listening. What do you think, Father?
well, I can give a very tactful answer.
Okay.
I can say that the other priests that know Andrew agree that Dallas is a great place for him to discern whatever God's will is.
Very well put, Father. Very political somewhat, but very well put. Okay. All right. What does it cost down there to go down on a mission trip? What does it cost for any of the young people to make a trip down there?
Approximately, because it's going to vary somewhat depending upon what time of year you're traveling because of flights, but roughly about $1,000, maybe up to $1,200 per participant, and that covers everything, including your travel.
Okay.
So it's very economical because the U.S. dollar goes a long way down there.
Okay. And the youth that come on these trips, are they only from the Arlington Diocese?
The majority are because they're aware
Okay.
and sign up the quickest. But there have been groups from other places. For example, Focus, the college student
we've heard of
ministry.
them. Yeah,
I'm sure you have.
we've had them on
Yeah.
on the
So
show a lot.
they come down. They love coming down. They're big fans of the Bonica Mission. So they come, of course, from all over the country.
Right. And in order for people to take a look at this, if somebody watching right now wants to connect, where do they have to go?
Very simple, just Bonica Mission. If you
Okay.
Google Bonica Mission, you'll get the website. Or just Bonica, you'll get the website.
Okay.
There's a funky Latin American singer whose last name is Bonica, but you'll figure out which is the mission side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the homes that are down there, you do work in helping to build people's homes in general. You help with general construction. I mean, the video shows that the homes are little challenged. At
Substandard,
times.
we'll say.
Okay, yeah. And I know a previous video that I had seen where you're talking about little mini greenhouses.
Mhm.
It's really a metal shed essentially, is what it is, and it's just kind of patchwork, pieces of tin and metal.
Their homes, yeah.
Attached to it. But what does it cost if you're going to help somebody build a home down there? What are we talking about if someone's thinking here in America, homes, beginning at $100,000, $200,000, $300,000? What are we talking down there?
Right, yeah, it's what people might spend to improve their home in the United States actually builds a home, for people in the Bonica Mission. So around $5,000, $6,000 that people might spend to improve their home is actually going to build a home for people down there. So that's always a blessing when people are able to do that.
And so people can contribute money to this mission through that same website?
Exactly.
Okay, and the website again is?
BonicaMission.com.
BonicaMission.com. I've said it several times, so we can constantly have that ingrained in our head. We have another video we're going to go to right now. Check this out. Another look at Bonica Mission in Dominican Republic.
One of the most basic things of life is our home. And here people live in physically poor structures. When it rains, that structure doesn't hold up very well. Some of them don't even have cement floors, so literally living on dirt floors in their homes. Their housing is very basic. This is a mud and stick structure, holding up, I suppose, just because the mud dries in a certain way. The roof is made of some kind of metal, sheets of metal they look decent, but certainly this is not what we consider as worthy as it should be for what they can live in.
They sleep on dirt floors, or they share a small room like a family of 7, or they cook in the fire. It's heartbreaking.
The church is very much interested in improving the housing of the people. A home here, compared to back home in the United States, is pennies. What people would spend, say $3,000 to improve their home back home, builds a home for people here. Recently, there was a youth group that visited Bonica to do a service project, and one of the chaperones heard a comment that it costs about $3,000 to build a home here in Bonica. Months later, he let me know that he had some additional funds available, so he sent the $3,000. We were able to build a home for a 24-year-old young woman who is handicapped, has no use of her legs, and would never be able to work. And now she and her little brother, who take care of her, have a very comfortable, worthy place to live. And it will last for many, many years, the home that the church was able to build for her.
These are, very, very humbling situations, obviously, and good for us to be reminded of, to, number one, pray, contribute where we can, and detach on our own, And this is all a form of educating us as to the importance of what's going on here. And you say education down there is a big part to help people overcome poverty.
Yeah, education, of course, we all know is the key to breaking out of the cycle of poverty. So, something that'll happen that's heartbreaking is that happened just recently. A girl came up to me and she said, "Father, tomorrow my dad's putting me on a bus to send me off to the big city to work as a domestic in a home because his farm was failing, couldn't feed her and the other kids in the house." And so I went to that house and I said, "Hey, sir, don't worry. I'm going to find you a sponsor, provide like $100 a month to pay for basic needs," because his daughter is in the choir, she's a lector, she's in the youth group, she's a devout young lady. So we now have this program for kids like that where people donate $100 a month so that kids can stay active in the church, in their home with their families, and not be sent off to work as domestics. And another program we have is for college scholarships, because these kids who can make it through high school don't have money to go to college. College is about $300 a month. So we find sponsors for them as well. And these kids who receive scholarships, they give back to the church. Jesus didn't work on his own, right? Priests don't work on our own either. So we have apostles. These are young adults who are the cream of the crop kids. They get sponsored and they give back, teaching the faith and doing Bible studies and chastity groups and all those kind of things. A beautiful thing to see these sponsored kids, really be the apostles in the Bonica Mission.
So if someone wants to do this, they can again contact you at the website, which again is?
BonicaMission.com.
BonicaMission.com, so simple, BonicaMission.com. If you're interested, you feel in your heart you want to help, you want to be a sponsor, you want to contribute in some way, shape, or form. You want to sign up yourself, if you're a young person, or you want to sign up a young person to take a mission trip down there. Bonica House.
Bonica Mission.
Bonica Mission. Yeah. Look at me. BonicaMission.com. Important to do, so please do that. Don't forget to pray your rosary every day for the conversion of the world, as our Blessed Mother has asked us to do. Father, thank you so much. Keep up the great work. Great warrior on the battlefield. Andrew, you too, my friend. God bless you. God bless you in the direction you go with your future. Father Mark, as only you can take us out.
Well, may our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace and inspire you and guide you. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week.